a.m. starting leg 2 of my journey from south to north here in Mozambique. Just leaving Xai right now, and the goal today is to get to Tofo Beach by afternoon. I'm leaving a bit earlier than usual because I've learned my lesson yesterday. I know how long things can take. I mean, it's actually pretty surprising. I think when you're in the southern hemisphere, it's summer here. It's lighter out from like 5:30 in the morning. So everyone's up and about and doing things from pretty early on in the morning, which is kind of nice. You can really maximize the potential for every day. So I'm on this bus. I'm not exactly sure where it's going, but it's saying that it's going to a place called Bashish, which on Google Maps is just about where I need to go. I don't know if I have to get off at some point before that city and then change buses to another line, but we'll figure that out. At least I didn't have to wait a ton in Xai for the bus to get going in the morning, so that's one thing. The second thing is that I also didn't really sleep really well, so I was almost just planning on not vlogging at all until reaching Tofo. There were a ton of mosquitoes in the room. Though there was air conditioning, it was really uncomfortable. I thought I slept at around like 9:30, 10, but I only really slept until midnight and then have been up since then. So it was really uncomfortable, and I was just ready to get out of there and get out of the mosquito-infested room. So right now, at least it's cooler outside and I'm on the road and I'm moving, so I feel like I'm doing something useful. So with that, I will see where today takes us. Update is that it's been about 5 hours traveling right now. I left at 5 a.m. and it's about 10 a.m. and I've been dumped into another bus. This bus was leaving from where the road kind of forks into two directions heading north from Xai. So I needed to be on a different fork of the road than the other bus was traveling on. So this fork of the road will eventually take me to a town called Inhambane, and then apparently it's not a direct bus from here to Tofo. From Inhambane, then you have to change another bus to Tofo. But my friend Seju says that I should be in Tofo in an hour, so it's not as bad as I expect.
Yeah.
If I can get there in an hour, that's not bad. Then I should be there before noon. If I'm there before noon, then I can have lunch and enjoy the beach a little bit.
Yeah, it's good.
And then
It's nice
good.
beach.
And then I was telling Seju that my whole plan for Mozambique, all the way to Pemba.
All the Pemba.
Pemba is far away.
I ask you, if you go Pemba, how many days can you take to return here?
But it's so interesting how, though the mode of transportation is very much the same in how it works, the environment and ambiance of each one of these shapas is completely different. The one that I took earlier this morning was just like dead quiet, nobody talked to each other or anything. But in this one, everyone's very social, everyone's talking with each other. I'm having a much better time, even if it's just for the next hour or two. So after my third change of buses, I finally made it here to Tofo Beach. I am at my hostel. It's called Mozambique. Seems like a really nice spot. I haven't really met anyone else here yet, other than the guy who checked me in, who seemed really nice. But I'm only spending one night here. I'm gonna go check out the beach, have something to eat at the restaurant here, and then tomorrow morning we're on to our third stop, Vilanculos. So hopefully the weather isn't too dangerously hot right now. The beach is only about a 10-minute walk away from the hostel. We can check it out. It should be a pristine, sort of untouched, really isolated sort of beach. And there's also a range of beaches there. Some are more like that, more secluded. Some are more commercial. Some are more fun and party. So we can just walk along the beach and check it out. I know I'm definitely not in the mood to be out too late since I barely slept last night. But I'm here. I don't want to just stay inside. I want to check out what we came for, and that is the coastline. So I'm finally able to just sit down and chill for a second ever since like 5 a.m. this morning. It's crazy. I think if anything so far in my travel career is testing my patience, it's the Mozambican public transport system. For some reason, it just feels like it's even worse or more hectic than in Mauritania, because in Mauritania there are only a couple cities or even like settlements where there are people, and the population is pretty small. So there's only so many times that people are getting on and off, and there's only so many places that like the public transport vehicle would stop and start. there are only also a limited number of roads in Mauritania. People aren't getting off in the middle of the desert. Well, they are, but that's still pretty limited compared to here. There are settlements everywhere. There are people everywhere. There's towns of all sizes everywhere. There are roads of all conditions everywhere, and there's a population which needs and relies on those shapas for their day-to-day transport. So some people like me might be taking it for a couple hours, going from one province to another. Some people might just be taking it for like a 5-minute ride just to get from one block to another block. Some people are using it for business purposes to transport hardware from one place to another to sell it in another town. So the chances that you're going to be traveling and just traveling without stopping for more than like 5 minutes is pretty low. And so that means that what shows up on Google Maps is a 3.5-hour ride between one city to another ends up turning into an 8-hour drive, which is what happened today. Every time I pull out Google Maps and look at how much more of the Mozambican coastline I have to cover before I get to Pemba, it intimidates me because I know just how hard it is to cover like 100 kilometers using this public transport system, and it's testing my patience. I just constantly am like, what is going on here? You could be completely relaxing in the sun, which I probably will be doing soon, and you could still be like a bit impatient just due to how hot and humid and gross it is. Add on top of that a bunch of people, the discomfort of like sitting in the vehicle, which has been repurposed and so that it can handle more people than it normally would if it was being used anywhere else. And it's just like not a fun time. But that's what travel is about. If I wanted to do this in a totally luxury way, I completely could. I could probably rent out a vehicle, spend a couple $100s. I could take flights between all these places using the domestic carrier, but that's not what Nonstop Nikhil is about. Nonstop Nikhil is about doing it as close to the ground as possible. Adding to everything else is like I have this like constant like low level headache going on in the back of my head. But I mean it's not like anything bad at all. It's not bothering me too much, but it's just like the feeling of not having your caffeine doses on a regular basis. And that made me think about like why aren't people just selling coffee constantly here in Mozambique? Maybe their life is just very chill. Like, you know, there's no rush to constantly wake up and drug yourself into your usual daily routine, which I think is exactly what we do in the US. These are the weird thoughts I have when I'm sitting at almost 100 degrees in a vehicle that should only handle maybe 8 or 9 people, but is like crammed with like 25. Things I think about. I question my choices in life. Please just be prepared. A lot of this Mozambique series is going to be me ranting to you. It seems like just watching me take multiple buses a day and just hate myself while burning in the sun is probably not great content. And here we are at the beach in Tofo. This is one of the nicest beaches I've been to on this trip so far. I don't know if you can tell just how blue and the ranges of blue are in the water right now. And the sand is clean. There aren't a lot of people here. There are also different sorts of beaches. Down back behind me is a more secluded beach. And this beach is closer to the action, but still pretty quiet. And then down behind me, you've got the cafes, you've got eateries, you've got people engaging in all sorts of recreational activities. I personally think a beach is a beach is a beach wherever you go. So I don't like to dwell too much in talking about beaches or spending time at a beach. But when there's really nothing else to do and it's so hot and you've just been spending all day otherwise on a bus cramped with other people and suffocating and just having no idea where you're exactly going to be going that day and how many hours it's going to take, it's this kind of a space where you want to be, where you can feel free, where you're in the open, and where the weather is nice and mild. This will not be the last beach we touch on, so I'm trying to find ways to make this content more interesting rather than, oh, here's a beach, here's some water, here's some sand, and here's people gathered on it. Just heading out of the beach area to head back to my hotel right now before it gets dark. The town itself of Tofo is actually pretty small. There's just a couple of businesses here to support the tourist industry, and then the local people who work here to support the tourist industry. So there's one section of town right by the beach, which has like the craft market, restaurants and bars and cafes catering to tourists. And then there's another part just a couple blocks away, which looks basically like any other small town you'd pass through in this part of Mozambique. The area surrounding the beach is actually quite hilly, so a lot of the hostels and hotels and more quieter establishments are located further up on the hill. That's where my hotel is, and then there's also the typical kind of like guest houses right by the beach as well. For as small of a tourist establishment as this is, it is one of the main attractions here in Mozambique, so you can find something to cater to all budgets, all crowds, all ages here. I know I'm paying for my shared room about like $10-13, but you can definitely find the ultra luxury here as well if you go further up the coast. The one pain point is actually getting to Tofo. I've noticed a lot of people come here in groups and they come with their private transportation, which I would highly recommend if you can travel that way. I can't, so I didn't. If you need to rely on public transportation, it's going to be those shapas, which I've been taking, and you pretty much have to grab one from Inhane. I don't know how to pronounce that city. It's with a Portuguese transliteration. Inhane, something like that. You have to go grab a shoppa from there. But pretty much because this area caters so much to tourists coming from Johannesburg in South Africa, they're coming in overland with their own transportation. As secluded as the area with the hotels and guest houses is, it feels rather safe. So much of this economy depends on tourism that I'm sure they wouldn't want any such incident to take place here that would deter tourists from wanting to visit and from allowing the economy to grow here. There are also watchmen and guards outside pretty much every building, and most of the guest houses do a good job at providing signage on the streets pointing to the direction to their location. I just caught the first half of the World Cup match between Morocco and Croatia. When I left, the second half just started and Croatia was in the lead 2-1. So hopefully I missed a Morocco goal while I'm walking back home, because it would be nice to see Morocco win again. We'll see what the score looks like when I get back.